Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Aesthetic Brokers Podcast, Aesthetic Appeal. Today, we have a very special guest for you, widely considered as the expert in the space, Brian Colao, director of Dykema's law firm for MSOs and DSO groups. Mr. Colao has been serving the healthcare space, spanning nearly 30 years now, and has dedicated himself to understanding the legal practices of intricacies that surround med spa and aesthetic practices. Brian's extensive knowledge of healthcare law has positioned him as a trusted legal advisor on business formation structures and related mergers and acquisitions, as well as the full array of regulatory compliance requirements for organizations. Mr. Colao, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bill, my pleasure to be here. Like I told you, I just got a tiny bit of a cold still, so I'll try to project as much as I can, but I'm really happy to be here.
Brian, thanks for sticking it out. It's always tough when you're battling a little bit of a bug, and he's been a trooper for us to make time to be on the show today. So thank you very much.
You got to play hurt, Bill. You know, in the football game, you got to come out. You got to play hurt. So we're here.
That's right. So for those of you who are listening, today we're going to dive into the med spa aesthetic space from an attorney's viewpoint. Brian, if you would, for those who are not familiar with the word Dykema, would you talk about Dykema and talk about what your purview is within the organization?
Dykema is a law firm. We have about 500 attorneys, but on my team, there's about 72 people that do healthcare and do MSO, DSO transactions. We represent probably around 1,000 healthcare organizations, including DSOs, MSOs, all disciplines. And I think you gave a very nice introduction to me. Nobody goes to law school to be the dental or medical guy, but that's sort of the way it's turned out for me. And I'm entering my 30th year, and I think we've done our team something like 1,500 plus healthcare transactions in the last 10 years. So, you know, we pride ourselves on being, you know, as far as we're concerned, the leader in the space.
So let's dig into that a little bit. So those numbers, for those of you, when you look up Brian's background, he has clients in all 50 states of the United States, 6 provinces in Canada. I think you're admitted into four or five, 6 different U.S. circuit courts.
Well, it's more than that, to be honest. But you know, I think we're have clients in every Canadian province now.
Every
I know
Canadian
what you're
province
reading
now.
from. That's a bio that we put together, but I think we're in every Canadian province. We've got clients in Mexico. We've got clients in Europe, clients in Australia, Japan. So we're really, you know, healthcare has exploded all over the world, really. I mean, certainly exploded in the United States, but, you know, these DSO, MSOs are exploding all across the world.
So when I think of where we're at in medical aesthetics, it just seems like the Gilded Age. You have such an insightful background because you've seen the consolidation occur in previous industries. What are your thoughts on the medical aesthetics space right now, where we are at, and how does that compare in contrast to previous cycles that you've seen in healthcare? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, it reminds me a lot of the dental industry about 10 years ago. It's poised to explode. The only thing that's, you know, just a little bit holding it right back is, you know, I'm sure, Bill, you've been following the interest rates and inflation and everything that's been going on in the last 2 years. You know, we're in a little bit of a challenging economic time for a consolidation and M&A, but we're coming out of it. There's a lot of optimism for 2025 and 2026. So I think, you know, the med aesthetics industry was poised to explode around 22, 23, but we went into this, you know, challenge time with inflation and interest rates. And even though deals still closed, it sort of just held it back from the complete explosion. But I think it's poised now, with a lot of optimism going into 2025. Three interest rate cuts this year. There'll be more in 2025. I think it's poised for an explosion in consolidation.
Interesting. So from your vantage point, it's almost as if the cookies were made, the sheets were ready to go in the oven. This is just there was a stutter step. So are you saying that for those who were building successful med spa practice, they have not missed the boat? Is that
Oh gosh, no, absolutely not. That's a good question the way you ask it, but no, absolutely not on that. I think we just put cookies in the freezer. Once the cookies come out of the freezer and they defrost, as far as I'm concerned, they taste just as good as they did before. But we were on a lot of things were on the eve. This is not specific to med aesthetics. You could go to the, dental industry. It was white hot with consolidation, and it was already going on because I believe dentistry is about 10 years ahead of med aesthetics. So it was in the middle of the explosion. And then right around end of the second quarter 2022, the interest rates went from like zero to about 4.5, 5% in
yes?
breathtaking fashion. Not in a good way. You sometimes we say breathtaking and it's good. No, in a bad way. In breathtaking fashion, they went from 0 to 5 or 6%, the Fed's benchmark rate, and it really froze up a lot of the dental markets, and the metastatic market that was just starting to really kick in also got, slowed down dramatically. But again, a lot of optimism going into 2025. Have a new presidential administration, one that's going to promote deregulation. While, more interest rates cuts are on the way, there is literally, I saw a study, trillions of dollars on the sidelines of investment dollars that
Trillions.
want to be deployed. Trillions. I was very surprised by it. It was a published study it was something like, and it's not my thing, so don't hold me to it. Everybody agrees there is an enormous amount of money on the sidelines. But the one study I looked at recently said it was something like $3 trillion plus, which was even larger than I thought, of
Wow.
investment dollars on the sidelines waiting to be deployed.
When you think of that amount of capital that is at the ready, what is it about healthcare? Do you think that healthcare continues to be an attractive option for those investors, specifically that are looking to be off of the public market in the private market? And then how do you see medical aesthetics playing into that portfolio for those mega investors as it trickles down to the mid market to small cap market?
Yeah, metastatic is really attractive. Again, it reminds me of dentistry. Dentistry that, quite frankly, has a longer track record. People have been drilling teeth longer than Botox and things like that. But dentistry has been, virtually recession proof, pandemic proof, has done incredibly well. But one of the issues in dentistry that it hasn't stopped the consolidation, but you got to work through it, is a lot of the reimbursement rates. There's a lot of Medicaid, there's a lot of private pay insurance involved. You've got to work through a lot of those issues and run numbers when you're valuing a dental organization. But in metastatic, it's mostly a cash business. HIPAA doesn't tend to apply the same way it does in the regular healthcare context, because you're not filing insurance claims. And if you're not filing insurance claims, in most situations, you're exempt from HIPAA. So there's a lot less regulations. It's a lot less complicated on the payer side. It's kind of like you walk up with your credit card and you pay, and that's kind of it. So for that reason, um, I feel like not only has it been poised to explode, doing metastatic transactions in a lot of ways are less complicated and more straightforward than dentistry. So I think the mass consolidation of metastatics can be bigger than dentistry ever was, even.
Wow. You talk to Brian, you speak with a lot of private equity firms, a lot of family high net worth family offices. What is it that are the most attractive features of medical aesthetic practices that they like to see? Where do they assign risk? and how do you view that through your lens from a legal standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, the first rule is Warren Buffett's rule that I've loved. I live by this rule. You don't invest in something you don't understand. Okay. In the med aesthetics industry, we can understand it's not a complicated thing. We're not building, hardware that's going to planet Mars that we have to think about, like, what does this really do or not do? Everybody can understand pretty quickly what a med spa is or what a med aesthetic business is, who their customers are, and what they do. So the first thing is it's easy to digest and understand what is going on. Second, the pay structure, it's pretty easy to understand. It's mostly a cash business. It doesn't have the web of confusing insurance reimbursement rates and Medicaid regulations and all the audit risks and things that go with that. It doesn't really have that. You don't participate in government programs. So that makes one, getting paid simpler, and two, the regulatory burden simpler. Plus, as I said a few minutes ago, HIPAA is mostly exempt on these transactions. So, one, you've got a business you can understand. It's easy to understand. Two, the pay structure is very straightforward. Three, the regulatory burden, which sometimes can be a challenge in healthcare because healthcare is regulated. So when some investors want to do deals in healthcare, they're like, okay, but I'm scared. There's all these regulations. Med spa and med aesthetics has a lot less of a regulatory scheme. So in the end of the day, you've got something everybody can understand, something with a very straightforward payment structure and a lot less regulatory burden than other aspects of healthcare. And I think that makes it very, very attractive.
Brian, do you think about the speed at which dentistry consolidated over the past few years? And then is there anything that you think is indicative of the rate at which med spas consolidate in terms of the size of the market, where dentistry being, 170, $180 billion industry, medical aesthetics maybe around 18 billion, so about one tenth the size. How does that translate to time?
Yeah, well, the consolidation will happen quicker, obviously, but it's still going to happen. Dentistry is going on. I would say the consolidation really started in earnest around 2013, 2014. So it's in its 11th year of consolidation, and the market share is about 31, 32%. Say call it 30% plus. Market penetration of DSOs. So there's about 70% runway left. Metaesthetics, I understand based on what I've looked at, to be around 4% market penetration, depending on who you talk to. So you've got an enormous amount of runway, but you do have less inventory, but you've got a lot of room for growth for new inventory. So I do think the consolidation will occur quicker than dentistry because it's taken 11, 12 years to get one third of the way through dentistry. I think the whole metaesthetic thing, might be, a third of the time, for the consolidation to occur, but it's still poised to occur. And I think the metaesthetic organizations, even ones that haven't even been created yet, that people are just thinking about in their mind and are about to create them somewhere. There's a lot of demand for it. And I think they're going to be very, very attractive to investors.
Brian, I've heard you speak at the Dykema DSO conference in the past in Denver, and I see how pulling together industry experts, financial sponsors, investment banks that back the private equity groups, the individual practice owner, um, all of that synergistic effect. Is there anything on the horizon for Dykema with regards to creating that kind of environment forthcoming for med aesthetics?
Yes, I'm real glad you asked that, Bill, because we're having our first ever metaesthetic event, May. I think it's May 8th or the 9th, but it's going to be on the web. You'll be able to see it real easy if I misstated it, but it's in May of 2025 in Denver at the Gaylord, the same location. They
I
love
know
us
the
there, of
Denver.
course, because we have our big DSO conference. So when we told them we wanted to have a med+aesthetic conference, they were jumping for joy at the Gaylord. They were delighted. So we figured let's stay with a facility that we're very comfortable with, a staff that always treats us well. So we're going to have our first ever med+aesthetic event, May of 2025, at the Gaylord Rocky Mountain Resort in Denver, Colorado.
All
And
right.
it's we are trying, Bill, to do exactly what you said. We're going to replicate bringing everybody together for, our principles with the DSO conference have been best content, best networking, most fun. And that's the same principles we're going to live by with the med+aesthetic conference. Best content on stage, all the big names, people that really know what they're doing, best networking opportunities, most fun.
Yeah, I can say those are great descriptive words for sure, and we'll be on the lookout for that. That's awesome. Um, at a granular level, for the individual who has created a very successful practice, I'd like to dive in and get your aspect on they're ready to sign an LOI, they're ready to do a transaction with a group. Uh, what are some key tenets that pearls of wisdom?
First thing is, have it reviewed for regulatory compliance. Let's make sure, there are lenient states, there are moderate states, and there are strict states. And I can't tell you the times in metastatic, and it doesn't surprise me because I went through this for a decade in dentistry. So it does not in the least bit surprise me. But somebody comes in and they've built a great organization, except it's illegally structured. And I'm like, well, hold on. Before we go sell this thing, we got to fix it. We got to put it in the right structure because the buyer's going to see this and it's going to, affect the sale. Second thing you want to do during this week where you're just sort of thinking about everything is you want to say, what am I looking for a partner? Because the most critical thing is you got to pick the right partner. And the last thing you want to do, in my view, is say, let's get all these LOIs and like on the fly, we'll just figure out what kind of partner we want. No, you want to sit down and you want to think, do I want a hands-on partner that's going to, micromanage me and have me on calls every week talking about the performance? Or do I want a partner that if I hit my numbers, they're invisible? I like never see them. I see them
Yeah,
once a year at a board meeting and they pat me on the back and leave. And there's no right answer. Some people say some founders of the organization say, hey, the whole reason I want a partner is I want them in my business. I want them talking to me. I want them adding value. Why would I do a deal if I'm not going to consult these people regularly? A lot of people believe that. Other people say, absolutely not. I know this business. The buyer doesn't. I don't, if I'm hitting my numbers, I don't ever want to see them. Now, I'll say this, if you're not hitting your numbers, I don't care who you are, you're going to be talking to, your partner. But, some partners, even if you're hitting your numbers, they're hands on and they're talking to you and trying to improve it. Others are sort of like, hey, I'll leave it to you. If you hit your numbers and projections, you'll never hear from me. But you
culture.
need to think right away. Is this which of the two do I want? What am I looking for? Number two, once I get this partner, what is my plan for growth? What do I want to do with this organization? Because no partner is going to affiliate with you and then not have a growth plan. I mean, of course, the whole point is to affiliate with you, and then there's going to be a growth plan for the organization going forward. If it's a large organization, you're going to have to slot into their growth plan. If you are the platform organization, you're going to be part of growing. And that's the other thing, Bill, you got to think about. Do I want to slot into a larger organization, or do I want to find a PE investor to make me the platform where I'm the focal point and I grow it versus I get slotted in to a large organization? Again, no right or wrong answer here, but you got to think about what your priorities are and what's important to you. And you have to, somebody like you, Bill, can answer these questions. Other people can, but you got to ask these questions and figure out what you want, because this is a lot, Bill. I say it all the time, like a marriage, right? The
Yes.
people that just go to Vegas and get married in 24 hours without ever sitting down and figuring out, do I want kids? Where are we going to work? Where are we going to live? They don't have the greatest success rate. I'm sure there's somebody that got married in 24 hours and they're still here decades later. But a lot of the people that do that 24-hour marriage thing, they break up kind of quick. It doesn't work out. And the ones that sit down and say, hey, I want to have kids. This is what I want to do in my career. This is what my spouse is doing. This is our plan for our life together. And everybody's aligned and everybody's on the same page. Those are the marriages that have the highest success of working out. So you really have to think of this as a business marriage, not a romantic one, but a business marriage. And you've got to have an alignment of interests. But the only way you can know if you have an alignment of interest is you got to know what your interests are. And there's so many people, Bill, that founded these organizations and it's going great, but they haven't taken just a little time to sit back and say, here's my vision. This is what I want for the next 5 years. This is what I want in a partner, either micromanagement, hands off. This is what I need going forward. And once you've figured all of those things out, then you can start interviewing prospective partners and see which ones are most aligned with your interests.
That inventory taking, I couldn't agree more. That is so important for a lot of our clients. There's so much to unpack there for everyone out there listening. Brian Colao is one of the best voices in the space when it comes to healthcare, specifically with dentistry and medical aesthetics. Brian, I want to put you on the spot, and I want to ask for. We won't hold your feet to the fire on it, but give me a prediction for 2025.
There's going to be a gradual re-engagement of the mass consolidation of med aesthetics. Okay. The interest rates have gone down 3 times here at the end of 2024. They're expecting 2 more cuts next year. So I don't think it's going to be just an explosion. It's January and everything goes crazy, but I think slow and steady. There's going to be a re-engagement of the mass consolidation of med aesthetics. And, honestly, I think that might be good for a year, Bill, to just slow and steady do deals, because that will give people time to consider who the right partners are, consider what their priorities are. Both parties can do proper diligence on each other. When we get into like a white hot market, like we had in dentistry near the end of 21, everything was so boom, boom, boom. It's got to be done now. Some people rushed through diligence, both on the
Yes.
buy and the sell side. They didn't know what they were getting into. And a lot of people are having to now readjust things. And like I say, digest it, just like food. You ate it too quick and now you got to digest, what you got. And sometimes, you get indigestion. What you ate was not what you were hoping it was going to be. And when you have slow and steady, like I'm predicting for 25, you got more time for everybody to think. Everybody can, using the analogy, eat their food slowly and look at it and think about things. And you don't get indigestion that way. So I think it's almost good that I'm predicting sort of slow and steady for 25. And then 26, I think, is poised maybe for a big explosion. But I think easing into slow and steady would be a good way to re-engage the marketplace. And then it'd be poised for, really all bets are off in 26.
I love that. That's a great analogy for a lot of our clients. It's a 6-month to 12-month process just to get to that stage, and so it definitely builds in time for things to be done the right way. Brian, thank you for being on the show. Appreciate your time.
Hey, Bill, great to be with you here. Happy holidays to you. I don't know when everybody's going to see this, but right now it's holidays. So happy holidays, Bill, and so nice to be with you.
Everyone, Brian Colao. He is the director for Dykema Law Firms, DSO, MSO Group nationwide across the US, Mexico, Canada. We'll see you next time on Aesthetic Appeal.